who valued the Second Amendment, who valued being able to go to church. We were taught from a very young age the importance of the Constitution and individual liberty and freedom. And when I was in high school, I met this, I went to a carpentry course. I didn't learn much about carpentry, I'll be honest with you. My wife would be much happier if I did with the projects around the house. However, this gentleman was a United States Marine from the Vietnam era. And I learned a lot about life from discussions with this gentleman. And one of the things that he said, it can't always be someone else. Someone in class asked, why would you join during time of war? Why would you join the United States Marine Corps? Aren't they super hard? Aren't they tough? Don't you have to be in danger? And he said, it can't always be someone else. And that stuck with me. And when I was in high school, I remember a day when some monsters flew planes into the World Trade Center. And I watched that, and his words resonated. They come back to my mind, and I knew at that moment, the second I got an opportunity, I was going to enlist in the Marines and serve. And I did that. I went home and I convinced my mother, and it was my first time acting as a recruiter for myself, which later came in handy. I ended up becoming a recruiter my second term in the Marine Corps. But I have had a lifetime of service. From the time I was 17 years old, getting out of high school, I've served as a firefighter and paramedic. I have served in the United States Marine Corps for most of my 20s. I have a wife, 2 daughters. We live in Jackson. My wife works in the cancer field, so she has to be close for her patients in Cape Girardeau. So we settled down in Jackson, and it's been a lovely place. One of the reasons that I wanted to serve in Congress is one of the things that was going on is I was in the midst of gaining my degrees to work in medicine. I gained an associate's in paramedicine, and I was working on a human biology degree. For normal people, that's the study of the human body, but for the leftists, that's the degree that gives you the ability to determine which bathroom to use. So I had this hobby that I picked up when I was overseas. I had a rack mate who was from Texas. And around 2008, he had told me about a congressman of his area named Ron Paul. And he discussed the fact that he was going to be running for president, and he was this liberty-minded Republican. And I was introduced to the study of Austrian economics and building sound money, having money that wasn't built on a fiat system, which is a corrupt system. And so since 2008, I've been studying and reading as many books as I could get on it. And that was kind of, my drive to serve the public, to serve this country, to serve my community. And the study of economics was what really pushed me over. I watched during the lockdowns how our economy was being destroyed. I watched the excessive spending. I've watched these politicians that they rail on against inflation. However, they vote for these bills to create money out of thin air. They dump it into the economy, and then they want to blame everybody else but themselves for voting on it. It's Putin's fault, or it's this and that. But there's not a real understanding of economics in Congress, I don't believe. And I believe that that's what I bring to the table as I've learned and studied, and I understand that we need people who are willing to say no. We have a few people in Congress that are really fighting the fight for individual liberty and for to make the right calls, and when it's hard to do. We have Ron Paul's son. We have Thomas Massey, and they're willing to vote no when it comes to things like this excessive money we're giving to these foreign nations, especially in a time where we can't afford to do that. And I want to be able to work with these folks and help them out, give them the reinforcements that they need to vote and make those hard decisions. My goal is to promote peace and prosperity through a strict adherence to the principles of individual liberty. And I believe that if all people in service could have that, that's what we need to focus on. It's like Mr. Ashcroft was saying, it's not about mob rule. We have these certain fundamental rights given by God that we should protect. And I think that we need leaders, we need representatives who are willing to safeguard those principles and what we were founded upon in this nation. A lot of people, they discuss on how the country should be ran, and they think it should go this way, but I think that it's pretty clear. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, they have painted the picture of how this nation should be ran. And there's a lot of politicians who should read the Constitution.
Yes.
So, but that's really what's important to me is service, is getting out, representing the people, protecting individual liberties, governing by the Constitution, and protecting our rights as free people. We used to be called the lighthouse of the world. You don't hear that much anymore. That light is starting to dim. It's very sad. I want my children, and for your children, the next generation, to inherit a nation that's still considered the lighthouse of the world. That's we've definitely gone down the wrong path, but I feel that we can come back. I feel that we stand on the shoulders of giants as Americans, and now we've inherited a great responsibility to carry the weight for the next generation, and it's a gift. But it's up to us to keep the flame ignited that our forefathers worked so hard to craft so many years ago. A document inspired by God and written by the hands of brave men who were willing to risk it all to give our nation a chance to be a true free society. And that's what I hope to carry on. I hope to carry on true liberty. So I'll take any questions. Sorry, I feel like I'm just rambling. One thing is I'm not a politician. I have a small business, a delivery business. I work as a paramedic in my spare time. It started out as just a way to give back and to serve, but it's paid dividends, because one of the things that we did different, one of the things we didn't like when we sat down and discussed what are our goals with our campaign, what are we trying to accomplish. We didn't like how politicians always had their hands out. We're always asking for things. They have $1 million in the bank. They're constantly asking people. And right now is not. You need your money more than I need your money. So I can do it with hard work and determination. So with my regular business, I work 13 24-hour shifts on the ambulance a month for my second job, and that funds my campaign. I'm not taking any money from special interest groups, corporate donors. I will owe no one favors when I get to Washington, if I'm so lucky to be elected by the people. I will owe no favors to anyone except for those who are my constituents. And I believe that's the way it should be. I always had this. It was strange to me that in a district like 8th District, that is 80% going to vote Republican regardless for the person who makes it to the final election. They're going to vote there. Why would you take $1 million from outside sources of our district? That's just putting yourself in an unnecessary situation where you're going to owe them favors. Like, why would you do that? All you have to do is campaign proper, make it to the end, and 80%. It's not like we're in this 50-50 struggle with Democrats in 8th District. And I found that to be disgusting that these politicians do that. And, in the Marine Corps, they taught us honor, courage, commitment. These are fundamental beliefs. These are core fundamental beliefs, that I bring to the table, and I want to show the next generation that this can be done in a proper fashion to where you don't have to sell out. This isn't about going into public service to get rich. These people that come in and then they leave multimillionaires. It's absolutely disgusting. There's something wrong with it. The insider trading that takes place. All this needs to go away. It is eroded. And we have to be willing to call it out in our own party. We have to have guts. We have to have we can't be afraid, because if we can't tackle these issues, within our own party, how can we take the challenges on with the other parties? We can't. So we have to be willing to make the hard choices, to say the hard things, to be able to stand up for what is right and what is just. And I feel like we have a great chance to accomplish our goals. Come August 2nd in the Republican primaries, this isn't when we first got into this, it seemed like such a mountain that a normal guy, an average guy, would have an opportunity to run against someone who has all this money from special interest groups and donors. But the people have rallied behind us. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not this polished politician. I can just tell you how I feel and get up here and talk. And that's what I try to do, is just get up here and have a moment where I can just try to be me and express what I really believe. I won't get up here and wow you with fancy words and this and that, but I will get up here and speak from the heart. And August 2nd, there's an opportunity to put someone in who is not a politician, who's someone who's been in part of the working class since 17 years old, going into the service, who's been a part of public service and been willing to put himself in those hard positions that not always have been safe. I've been about public service since a very young age, and although I don't have a voting record, I have 16 years of service to this country, to my community and state. And so I wanted to, I'll open it for questions, and if you guys have anything, I'd love to answer it. Yes, sir.
You mentioned you studied biology, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
What is a woman?
Human biology.
What is a woman?
What is a woman? That's right. Hoorah! That's right.
I am woman.
Yeah, a male and a female. It comes down to DNA. It's you're born with your parts. Those parts indicate which sex you are. We learn from a very early age working on farms. You know if you have a boy or a girl. You know if you have a steer. You know, and that dictates. It's not an illusion. It's not something that you can make up. It's not, and no one else should have to live by anybody else's fantasies.
Right.
So it's pretty clear. It's what God intended you to be is your sex. Yes, ma'am.
What is the proper role of government?
The proper role of government is to safeguard our liberties, our rights, and to protect our nation from outside harm. That is the goal. That is what they're supposed to do.
Biden has announced that there's another pandemic coming.
Yeah, I've seen that.
What will your response to that be?
Well, I will work to make sure that I will never be for mandates. I will never be for forced band-aids. I will always fight against that. I will never be for a lockdown. You know, I was very disappointed to see members of the Republican Party support these things. You know, in the beginning of the COVID, what shocked me is that some people watch their TV for permission on what they would do that day.
Yeah.
That is a totalitarian act, and we should not be following that. To be told you can't bury your father unless you only have 4 people at the funeral or 5 people. You can't get married. You have a limit of 9 people at your wedding. To watch in Columbia, Missouri, this is sad. My brother-in-law was having his first child with my sister-in-law, and they were told that he couldn't come into the ultrasound unless he was vaccinated. That should never happen in America. That absolutely should not happen. I will fight tooth and nail against all forms of tyranny. I think it was Thomas Jefferson who said, "I've sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against all forms of tyranny over the minds of man." That is the definition of a liberty warrior. That is what it's about. And that's the way all representatives should be, and that's the way I want to be.
Yeah. Good.